When the planner told me I was cluttering the family shots, I smiled, stepped aside, and made one quiet call to the bank. The flowers, the band, and the ballroom all depended on one thing: my untouched signature that night. Before watching the video, please tell us in the comments from where you are watching this video. Cloudy lights softened the courtyard and made colors feel honest and calm. Chloe, the planner, paced with a headset and tablet like a badge. The photographer called groups with cheerful authority and a printed list. I stood ready with Emily's shawl, steady the way fathers stand. "Parents of the bride," he said, waving me into the frame politely. Chloe slid between us and smiled the soft smile used for refusals. "Let's stage immediate family only for this set," she said smoothly. "I am immediate family," I answered, voice low enough to spare pride. She patted my sleeve and said, "We'll grab you later, no worries," under string lights that made every breath look expensive tonight. The next instruction landed sharper, dressed like professionalism, but thinner. "You're cluttering the frame," Chloe said quietly, not looking at me. The photographer blinked and glanced at his list like it misbehaved. Emily heard, hesitated, then followed the safer path toward the arbor. Trevor rubbed his jaw and said nothing, because silence costs less. I stepped back and let the lens win its argument temporarily. Mark, the venue manager, watched from the service door and frowned once. "We'll do father shots tomorrow," Chloe added, already moving bridesmaids like props. I nodded the way project managers nod before removing a risky dependency under string lights that made every breath look expensive tonight. I managed schedules and budgets for a living, not rooms for photos. Vendors had deposits, but final payments required my signature and instruction. The trust account held the florist, band, bakery, and lighting balances. Janet at the bank set disbursements to release on confirmation. One call from me could pause everything without breaking any contract. I don't swing money like a hammer. I set conditions politely. Respect is a condition when families try to survive big moments. Tonight taught me which condition failed and who insisted it didn't matter. I kept the shawl on my arm and counted to 10 slowly, under string lights that made every breath look expensive tonight. The rehearsal moved forward, cue lines landing like well-practiced traffic signals. Chloe corrected chin angles, bouquet heights, and walking pace between markers. She coached, smile wider, shoulders back, "Let's sell this like magazine," confidently. Emily followed directions, because perfection promises less worry for tomorrow. I stood near the second row, close enough to hear compliments. Someone whispered, "At least the planner knows what looks premium online." Another voice said, "Budget dads always wander into frames like furniture." I breathed, let the comment pass without claiming it loudly. Clouds shifted. The courtyard lights clicked on like small, patient stars under string lights that made every breath look expensive tonight. During a break, Emily approached with the bouquet and a careful smile. "Dad, can you hang by the cocktail lawn until lineup?" she asked. Her voice tried to hold everyone's comfort without dropping her own. "For now," I said, because I refused to fight performance head-on. Trevor nodded gratefully and said, "Thanks for being flexible tonight, sir." "Flexibility is easy," I replied. "Respect is the harder muscle to train." Chloe stepped in again and repositioned Emily toward a brighter wall. "We'll capture a cleaner family story this way," she said confidently. I looked at Emily. She looked at the floor and exhaled, under string lights that made every breath look expensive tonight. I walked to the lawn and let the hedge hide my thinking. Cars drifted past the gate. The city hummed like reasonable machinery. I pictured my late wife, who would have ended this in one sentence. She believed dignity was oxygen, never decor, and always non-negotiable. I opened my phone, not for posts, but for account clarity. Janet's number sat starred because she understands paperwork without drama. Disbursements were pending verification, awaiting my go-ahead in the morning. I closed the screen and decided nothing without sleep and a timeline. Plans feel strongest when they rest before they move money, under string lights that made every breath look expensive tonight. The photographer called for a final run and quick group farewell. Chloe thanked everyone and previewed tomorrow's content moments enthusiastically. Mark gave me a look that said he'd seen this movie. I shook his hand and said, "Your team runs a tight ship." "We try," he answered, "and ships need captains on their own decks." Emily hugged me softly and whispered, "Please don't be mad tonight." "I'm not mad," I said. "I'm adjusting the budget to reality." She pulled back, searching my face, then nodded because sentences counted. I walked to my car, steady, and let the evening decide tomorrow, under string lights that made every breath look expensive tonight. Deposits move faster than emotion, which is why I paid them early. The venue required 50% at contract signing, refundable only if they rebooked. I wired that from my trust, a separate account I managed carefully. The florist got 30% to reserve seasonal blooms and labor. The band asked for a retainer that covered rehearsal tracks and travel. The bakery wanted ingredients covered because butter and thyme don't refund well. Rentals for lighting and linens took a modest booking fee, predictable and clean. All balances were scheduled through Janet using vendor invoices as triggers. My instructions sat on file. Verify services, then release final. Payment. No vendor could claim surprise because every line lived in writing already. Janet keeps banker's hours, but she answers plainly when structure matters. You control release, she said, until your signed authorization hits our screen. I told her we'd confirm deliveries by phone the morning of. She added a second layer that protects everyone's sleep and sanity. Vendors must email confirmation of arrival windows and crew leads' names. That small line matters when panic searches for people with actual keys. Mark, the venue manager, agreed to sign off before ballroom doors opened. We'll check power, floor plan, and permits before anyone plugs in, he said. I like managers who treat romance like a safety checklist with polish. Clean process frees people to enjoy the parts that photographs can't hold. Chloe pushed for earlier payments, dressed like kindness toward small businesses. They need certainty, she said, tapping her tablet as if it were law. I respect certainty, but I don't pay for speeches about certainty. Certainty arrives with service, I told her, keeping tone friendly and firm. She tried again, suggesting a combined check run for vendor morale. Morale rises with clear timelines and coffee, I answered, not moving an inch. Emily listened, torn between efficiency and the look of generosity online. Dad, if it helps the day feel smoother, could we consider it? She asked. We already considered it when we built milestones, I said gently. Chloe smiled like a person who believes smiles can loosen bolts. The contract stack looked heavier than it read, because words carried weight. The venue spelled out noise ordinances, load-in times, and insurance certificates. The florist promised delivery by 10, placement finished by 11:30. The band's sound check couldn't exceed 30 minutes during luncheon hours. Rentals had penalties for overweight chandeliers and damaged parquet panels. The bakery listed refrigeration tolerances and a time window for stacking tiers. Chloe waved this off as vendor legalese and not our vibe. I read every clause because money becomes silence when clauses are ignored. Emily watched me underline 2 lines about late fees and access. I'd rather underline now than apologize over microphones later, I said. 2 weeks out, I asked Mark to walk me through the back doors. Ballrooms look honest from service corridors because they show the work. He introduced the head of security, the electrician, and the night manager. We'll scan badges at load-in and keep a log, the manager said. If someone insists they're important, we check the list anyway. I appreciated rules that treat titles and tantrums exactly the same. Chloe wanted the decorator in early with candle tests and photo rehearsal. Mark shook his head and pointed to the sprinkler policy posted plainly. Open flames after final approval only and none near. Drape, he said. Safety doesn't care about hashtags, and I liked him for that. On the financial side, my trust exists because grief taught me order. When my wife died, I set guardrails so Emily never carried messes. The trust releases funds for education, healthcare, and major life events. Weddings qualify, but the trustee, me, approves timing and scope. Janet monitors compliance so family feelings don't rewrite math later. You can be both generous and responsible, she reminded me once. I kept that sentence taped inside the folder with vendor lists. Generous is paying deposits months ago without making a speech. Responsible is holding final checks until respect reaches the room. Families survive when both verbs show up on the same day. The planner's contract said she coordinated vendors and protected the client vision. It didn't say she controlled disbursements or decided which parents matter. I sent Chloe a sheet detailing our release schedule and contact tree. Mark signs off, vendors confirm, bank releases, everybody breathes, it read. She replied with a thumbs-up emoji and a note about curated moments. I replied with a PDF and my cell for day of logistics. Call me if a truck goes missing or a breaker flips, I added. I believe in useful phones, not decorative ones for selfies. She didn't love the tone, but she loved the reliability quietly. People who sell calm still need the people who provide it. Trevor checked in with me after work, sounding careful but sincere. I know budgets aren't romantic, he said, but I appreciate you. Budgets buy roofs for romance, I told him, pouring coffee at home. He laughed, then asked how he could help tomorrow morning. Be present at load-in and let Mark speak without interruption, I said. If Chloe pushes for early checks, you back Mark's process completely. He promised, and I believed him because quiet men keep quiet promises. Emily texted an hour later, sending cake sketches and shoe photos. I replied with a picture of the vendor timeline taped to my wall. She sent a heart, then wrote, "Please keep tomorrow smooth, Dad." Smooth follows respect, I typed, and left the phone face down. The eve of rehearsal, I sorted envelopes with the steadiness of habit. Each held a copy of the vendor contract and phone numbers. I didn't touch the checks because Janet had them queued securely. My job was to confirm, not to count in public for applause. I placed the folder by the door and turned off every house light. Before bed, I said goodnight to my wife, where her photo stands. Help me keep it kind and firm, I whispered, like always. The hallway cooled, the refrigerator hummed, and the plan stayed simple. Tomorrow would test whether people respected the foundation under their celebration. Mark met us at the service entrance, clipboard already marked with times. The corridor smelled like coffee, fresh paint, and rented linens warming. Chloe arrived with her assistant, wearing a headset and a staged smile. "Walk through," she announced, like a flight attendant guarding the cockpit door. Emily tucked hair behind her ear and followed the brisk pace. Trevor carried a garment bag, stepping aside for rolling racks passing quickly. I stayed near Mark because service doors tell truer stories. "Load in, staggered by vendor," Mark said, tapping the schedule calmly. "Electrician first, then drape, then band risers." Chloe nodded, then added, "Decorators can slip in early for candle rehearsals, Mark." He didn't flinch, which is why I liked him from day one. "Open flame approval after final safety check," he answered, firm and professional. "Sprinkler policy forbids tests near drape or ceiling fabric today." Chloe pivoted without pausing, already pointing toward the ballroom doors. "Let's discuss the head table," she said, voice bright as a showroom. Inside, tape lines mapped where tables would land like sensible highways. The florist crew staged buckets near the bar, under plastic tarps. "We're swapping the family tables to the back for better content," Chloe announced. Emily glanced at me, then watched her shoes instead of faces. I waited, letting the sentence sit where gravity might test it. Chloe continued, confident that speed could outrun consent easily. "Parents near the DJ booth photographs cleaner," she said, tapping the floor. "It keeps brand partners from seeing distracting age in the front row." Trevor blinked, unsure whether to object or laugh politely. Emily cleared her throat but found safer topics hiding under logistics. "Can we review the processional spacing first?" she asked, careful and strained. Mark looked at me like a man checking for structural cracks. I spoke softly because soft words travel farther in crowded rooms. "Family sits where family sits," I said. "Front tables were agreed and remain." Chloe smiled the smile used for donors when cameras watch. "You're generous, David," she said, patting the air between us theatrically. "This adjustment centers the brand narrative and guest experience." I considered my answer, measuring tone, cost, and safety together. "This wedding centers a marriage," I said, keeping volume even and grounded. "Brand narratives can live on the perimeter with candles and hashtags." Emily exhaled, half relief, half worry pressed into one breath. Trevor murmured, "Front tables make sense. It's family first." Chloe kept moving, pretending no one had set a boundary clearly. "We'll revisit," she said, typing notes that meant nothing to chairs. We reached the head table, where uplights threw expensive color across drape. "I want the couple elevated 8 inches for better audience lines," Chloe said. Mark shook his head and tapped the venue manual posted discreetly. "Risers require guardrails and a separate permit," he replied calmly. "No time, no rails, no risers." Chloe frowned, then turned to me like a judge seeking appeal. "David, can we fast-track a permit with your contacts today?" she asked. "No," I said. "We planned within rules. Rules keep evenings safe," Emily whispered. "We're fine on floor level," choosing function over spotlight finally. Trevor nodded and smiled at her like a man choosing sanity. At the bar, Chloe outlined signature cocktails sponsored by a local partner. Mark crossed his arms, waiting for paperwork that would never appear honestly. "We don't host promotions without contracts and liability riders," he said. "No vendor, no sponsor, no logo walls inside my building." Chloe pivoted again, then reached for a safer pressure point, lightly. "Let's talk timing on final checks," she said, eyes sliding to me. "Vendors relax when balance is clear before lunch." I glanced at Mark, then answered as if reading a weather forecast. Checks release after verified arrival and Mark's sign-off, I said. Exactly as scheduled last month. Emily said nothing, but her shoulders lowered like a tent finding stakes. Chloe's assistant whispered something about photo cues and hero shots. The planner brightened, energized by ideas that ignored gravity and human limits. We'll stage a reveal where the bride runs to the ballroom alone, she said. Parents enter later to avoid cluttering the emotional frame. Trevor looked at Emily and then at me with real worry. I'd like my dad's entrance with me, Emily said, finally choosing herself. Chloe adjusted her headset like a crown being tightened publicly. We need clean lines, she insisted. The internet prefers singular emotion. I answered before Emily had to apologize for wanting her father present. The internet doesn't sign the vendor checks, I said. Family enters together. Mark called a quick safety huddle as deliveries knocked on back doors. The electrician confirmed circuits and pointed to a taped hazard near curtains. We need this drape shifted 4 inches to clear the fire pole, he said. Chloe sighed audibly and rolled her eyes toward the ceiling dramatically. Fire poles ruin photos, she whispered, forgetting microphones pick up entitlement easily. Mark didn't blink, which made me grateful again for boring professionals. Fire poles save lives, he said, sliding the drape without debate or apology. Emily watched him, then looked at me with a small, grateful nod. Trevor squeezed her hand and mouthed, "We're okay." The florist led us through a test runner down the center aisle. Petals scattered with practiced hands, and color finally felt like celebration. It's beautiful, Emily said, voice softer, calmer, and more certain. Chloe tried one last pivot back to seating, hoping fatigue would help. Parents, opposite sides. Brand partners near the cameras, she suggested briskly. I shook my head once, then looked at Emily instead of her. Front tables stand, I said. No more changes. Emily straightened like a person who remembered her own surname matters. Front tables stand, she repeated, anchoring the sentence with her voice. As rehearsal wrapped, Chloe pulled Emily aside for a private script. I stayed within earshot because closed rooms often rewrite families quickly. Your dad is lovely, she said, but we must curate optics. Emily stared at the bouquet, then lifted her eyes and answered clearly. We will curate respect, she said. Optics follow or leave. Chloe's lips thinned, but the headset hid the expression from most. She nodded once and excused herself to check on lighting again. Mark approached me, handed over his checklist, and spoke quietly. We'll run this by the book, David, he said. Books keep weddings from becoming headlines. I shook his hand and felt the room tilt back toward home. I drove home with the rehearsal map still printed in my head. Jacket on a chair, I opened the vendor folder calmly. I don't make threats. I make schedules and keep them. Chloe's clutter line sat with decisions, not with feelings. I checked the trust dashboard and watched neat pending disbursements. Triggers showed times, signatures, and venue confirmation requirements. I reread each clause and touched nothing else on screen. If respect returned, money moved. If not, it waited. Respect is a condition, not a garnish for rented light. I would not move money to reward public rudeness again. I meant it completely. Janet Ford, she answered, voice steady and already taking notes. David Carter, I said. I need a pause protocol. Bankers prefer nouns and verbs, not speeches about feelings. Balances release at 9 after venue confirmation, she said. Correct, I replied. Place a temporary hold pending conditions. Her pen resumed its crisp rhythm without judging anyone. State conditions I can document without adjectives, she said. Safety, donor control, private talk, respectful inclusion, I answered. That's why I'm calling now instead of complaining later. Please log that principle beside the timing notes and rules. She repeated the list in tighter banking language for logging. Safety verification, donor control, borrower conversation, respectful inclusion, she said. I will timestamp your authorization rule and notes. She asked whether the trust allowed discretionary pauses without penalty. Yes, I said. Discretion ends at transfer, so this fits. She liked fences around power because auditors like fences. We'll classify as process integrity, not personality dispute, she said. Documents travel better than speeches on wedding weekends anyway. Clarity keeps tempers small and keeps money honest. We both knew those words would survive screenshots and gossip. Truly so. We set mechanics because mechanics save mornings from panic. I'll send neutral hold notices to each vendor, she said. Release follows Mark's email and your one word, proceed. Use proceed only, I replied, enjoying the clean line. Who is backup if you go off-grid? She asked. My sister Brenda, code word Maple, temporary authorization, I said. She updated the card and read it back perfectly. Extend phone verification over 5,000, I added. Done, she said. Clean tools make quiet outcomes when people try to rush. Everyone relaxes when the plan removes shortcuts and special passes. I texted Emily while Janet compiled notices in the background. Breakfast 7, I wrote. We'll review entrances and timelines quietly. I deleted harder sentences and kept the bridge intact. She replied fast. Okay, I felt weird about today. Tomorrow stays honest, I sent. No speeches, just choices. Janet forwarded the sample vendor email for my record. Release delayed pending standard confirmation, the boring armor line read. I saved it beside contracts, maps, and the seating diagram. Bridges hold if both sides step carefully at the same time. If trouble shows up, we fix it with logs, not volume. At 10, Mark called from the ballroom over forklift beeps. We're buttoned up for night staff, he said. Need anything? Ignore early check pressure and confirm at 8, I answered. He chuckled. You and I like the same weather. Predictable and dry, I said. Sprinklers stay quiet then. He texted the morning access list for security badges. Titles won't skip badging, he added. No exceptions tonight. Professionals like Mark make sleep legal, and I slept. Order beats volume when timelines stare you in the face. He preferred problems with numbers to problems with opinions and noise. Before bed, I stood at my wife's photo and updated her. I'll be fair, I whispered. Firm but fair, like always. I pictured Emily walking an aisle I could actually respect. Better 30 true guests than 300 chasing optics. Trevor texted, thanks for protecting front tables, protecting a marriage, I replied. Chairs are witnesses, nothing more. I wrote 4 lines on an index card for morning. State boundary, offer choice, approve path, document politely. It read. I wanted that sentence to be true in every room tomorrow. I tucked the card behind my bank number and breathed once. I woke early and reread Janet's checklist over quiet coffee. Hold emails showed green checks after one florist typo fix. My dashboard displayed 0 outbound activity since deposits, neat and calm. I texted Brenda, on hold until respect, breakfast at 7. She answered, standing by, and asked for nothing more. Outside, the street sounded like a town that keeps promises. I locked the door, grabbed the folder, and squared shoulders. Today would serve dignity, whether large or smaller by noon. Whatever size the day becomes, it should leave people whole. By noon, either plan would read cleanly to anyone who mattered. Morning arrived with quiet precision. Janet's hold order sat locked, vendors unaware for now. Emily and I met at the corner cafe. Both early, both cautious. She looked tired. Wedding weeks drain even calm people. Dad, she said softly. Chloe said the payments might delay schedules. Is that true? I stirred my coffee, measured, and nodded once. True, for now. We're confirming values before transactions. Her brow furrowed, and I watched her balance affection with obligation. I don't want conflict, she said, but I also don't want embarrassment. You'll have neither, I told her, as long as honesty stays on the schedule. Chloe joined late, headset still glowing, a phone tucked under her clipboard. Morning, she chirped. Big day for logistics, right? She sat without asking, opening her tablet before her jacket fully settled. We'll need payment clearance before 11 to release decor trucks, she said. Vendors can't sit idle. They have weekend work elsewhere. I looked at her calmly. Final checks release after venue verification, as written. Written can flex for progress, she countered, tone smooth but firm. Flexibility isn't progress, I replied. It's drift without anchor. Emily exhaled softly, eyes darting between us. Trevor arrived seconds later, sensing the storm without knowing its script. Let's walk through actual issues, I said, turning to Emily, not the planner. What's the first thing at risk if we keep normal timing? Maybe flowers arriving late, she said. Chloe said early access keeps petals fresh. Florists refrigerate professionally, I said. Temperature beats panic every time. Chloe frowned, tapping the screen like punctuation. David, these details confuse clients. Trust professionals. I do, I said evenly. Mark, the venue manager, is one. He signs before any transfer. Trevor leaned forward slightly. That seems fair, he said. We just want things running clean. Chloe shot him a look sharp enough to curve silence. Running clean needs early wire release, she insisted. I pulled a folder from my bag, the one labeled Bank Coordination. Here's the timeline approved by all vendors, I said. This column, confirmation. This one, release. This one, completion. I pointed slowly, giving the moment gravity. Every check has conditions. Remove respect, remove payment. Emily inhaled like someone hearing the phrase for the first time. Respect? Chloe repeated, voice quick with disbelief. We're managing design, not therapy. I met her gaze. Design without dignity collapses on contact. For once, she had no rehearsed reply, only a flicker of annoyance pretending to be confusion. Janet called right on cue. I put her on speaker so sunlight could witness truth. Janet Ford, First Lake Trust, she said, clipped and professional. Mr. Carter, verifying pause authorization still stands? Confirmed, I said. Until venue confirms conditions met. Emily blinked. Conditions? She asked, worried now that structure meant something real. Janet read from her notes. Safety verification, donor control, borrower conversation, respectful inclusion. That's accurate, I said. Chloe's face stiffened, headset glowing like a warning light. Inclusion, she repeated. You're holding funding because of a seating chart? No, I said. Because of behavior. Trevor finally spoke like a man crossing an invisible bridge. Chloe, maybe we just follow his plan. It's solid. Solid kills spontaneity, she snapped, voice rising. We're losing daylight and leverage. Emily rubbed her temple, whispering, Chloe, please. Janet, still on the line, interjected with calm authority. Ma'am, funds belong to the trust until documented release. Any breach of tone on this call will be logged as interference. Chloe froze, professional instincts catching up with ego. Of course, she said quickly. We'll wait for your green light. Appreciated, Janet replied, ending the call with the finality of a gavel. The table sat in silence for 5 seconds that felt like instruction. Then Emily reached for my hand, fingers shaking slightly. Dad, she said quietly, I didn't see it turning into this. Neither did I said. But clarity arrives on schedule too. She nodded slowly, finally understanding that structure wasn't punishment. It was protection. Trevor smiled weakly and added, I'll call Mark, confirm timing, keep everyone calm. That's leadership, I said, not noise. Chloe gathered her things, her practiced brightness gone. I'll adjust, she muttered, and rework the sequence. Do that, I said. And remember, optics never outrun contracts. When they left, I stayed to finish my coffee in the quiet. The cup was warm, not triumphant, just ordinary. That's what fairness should feel like. No rush, no applause. I texted Janet. Hold confirmed. Team aware. Proceed pending Mark's sign-off. She replied instantly. Logged. No movement without written authorization. I closed my phone and smiled slightly. Respect was now line-itemed in the budget. It had cost nothing except nerve, and it would pay dividends by morning. I drove to the branch with the folder on the seat and calm in my chest. Saturday traffic moved like a slow stream that respected lights. Janet met me in the lobby with a clipboard and a measured smile. We'll execute the hold formally, she said, leading me to a small room. The glass walls made everything feel clean and accountable. She placed 2 pages in front of me, both short and exact. Temporary disbursement. Freeze, trustee discretion. Limited to event vendors, she said. Releases require your single word by email. I read every line, then signed where flags told me. She stamped the file and turned a key like a quiet switch. We reviewed the workflow because systems save mornings from drama. Hold notice goes to vendors, not as blame, just as an update, she explained. Venue must confirm safety and access. You confirm inclusion and tone. Tone? I asked, and she nodded once, already writing the phrase. Respectful inclusion, she said. The line you chose yesterday, we keep it short. I appreciated her discipline because courts like nouns more than stories. Any calls come to us first, she added, tapping her card. You don't argue on sidewalks with florists. Perfect, I said, picturing a lobby filled with centerpieces and opinions. We preferred logs to voices, and she understood that completely. Janet sent the first batch of emails while I waited. The subject line read, Update, payment release timing, Carter event. The body was boring on purpose, which is how money should sound. Final disbursement awaits venue verification and trustee confirmation, it said. No action needed. Arrival windows unchanged. Thank you for professionalism. She copied me and attached the vendor list like a map. My phone buzzed with auto-replies and a couple of quick acknowledgments. Mark texted at the same time. Confirm when you're ready. We're on schedule. I replied, hold in place. Sign off after safety sweep. Janet looked up and said, clean. That language survives screenshots. Chloe called while we were still in the room. I declined and texted her the update in one line. Hold active. Venue confirms. Trustee releases. She answered with 3 dots, then a paragraph about day of pressure. I replied with the same sentence I use on construction sites. Pressure breaks cheap parts. We bought good parts. Emily texted next, asking if we were okay. We're better than okay, I wrote. We're safe, steady, and kind. She sent a single heart. then a photo of her bouquet as practice. It was beautiful, and I wanted the beauty to meet dignity. Janet printed a copy of the frieze and placed it in my folder. By 10, calls started landing at Janet's desk, not mine. The florist asked if the hold meant fewer stems. Janet answered calmly. "No change to your order, just timing of payment," she said. The band's manager checked on load-in. Janet read him the line. "Arrival as scheduled. Release after venue verification," she repeated. Rentals wanted to confirm crew count. She thanked them for checking. "Crew count unchanged," she said. "Logistics protected by the update." She muted the line and smiled sideways at me. "Vendors like boring truth more than hype," she said. I nodded, grateful that her office functioned like a level on a beam. Boring truth saves weekends. Mark called at 10:30 with his safety sweep report. "Fire pulls clear, exits unblocked, electrician green," he said. "Planner wants candles tested before approval. Again." "Deny," I said. "Policy first, candles later." He laughed, not unkind, and confirmed a noon final check. "Parents' table still front," he added, like a man closing a loop. "Good," I said. "The room can see the people who paid for chairs." He offered a thought, quiet, professional, and necessary. "If they push for early checks, point them to me," he said. "I carry the building, you carry the budget." "Copy," I said, and the division of labor felt right. Good buildings and budgets like clear owners. At 11, Chloe cornered me in the venue lobby, headset blinking. "David, the florist is nervous," she said, voice sugar over heat. "Nervous is fine," I answered. "Nervous people still follow contracts." She stepped closer, lowering her voice as if secrecy could fix policy. "If you release half now, spirits will lift and timelines relax." "Spirits lift when respect arrives," I said. "Release follows Mark. Respect follows Emily." She rolled her eyes, forgetting who listens from open doors. Mark appeared like gravity and spoke without ceremony. "Safety first, release after," he said. Chloe backed off, muttered "copy," and walked toward the ballroom quickly. Noon approached, and the lobby felt like a tide holding steady. Janet called, "Ready for your one word after venue email." "Standing by," I replied, watching the clock hit the minute marks. Mark's email landed with 3 bullets and a photo of clear aisles. "Safety verified. Access confirmed. Tables as agreed," the note read. I forwarded it to Janet and typed a single word in the body. "Proceed," I wrote, then hit send with the calm of a closing door. She replied, "Releasing now," and vendors received their green checks. The hold had done its job. It focused people and filtered noise. The building exhaled, and so did I. I found Emily near the bridal suite, breathing through a list without drama. "We good?" she asked, eyes searching my face for any weather. "We're steady," I said, and the money listened to respect. She hugged me carefully, careful not to crush hair or hope. "I'll remember this," she said. "Not the flowers." "Good," I said. "Flowers wilt, systems last." Chloe passed in the hallway, eyes down, headset dimmer than before. "Timeline adjusted," she said quietly. "Ceremony stays on schedule." "Thank you," I answered, because victory doesn't need a trumpet. The hold ended, but the boundary stayed, and everyone knew it. Saturday unfolded slower than rumor, but faster than calm. By 7, sunlight touched the hotel awnings where trucks idled. Mark's crew opened side gates. Security scanned every badge. Vendors filed in with quiet purpose, waiting for green signals. Chloe arrived last, headset recharged, energy brittle. "Morning, team," she said too brightly. "Let's keep timelines sacred." She spotted me near the service desk, half smiled, and avoided eye contact. Her phone buzzed twice, probably vendors asking about checks. I didn't move to help. I'd already done my part. The bank hold was silent but complete, and everyone would hear it soon enough. At 8, the florist's van stopped short of the loading bay. 2 workers stepped out, holding clipboards, then froze at their phones. "Payment delayed?" one asked Mark, reading Janet's neutral email. "Correct," he said, calm as a man who expected weather. "Unload pedals, stage vases, wait for confirmation." "We need the release," the taller one said. "Fuel and crew hours don't hold." "Then you wait on your contract clock," Mark said evenly. "Venue not liable for trust conditions." Chloe rushed over, heels loud, voice louder. "We can't freeze an entire timeline for semantics," she snapped. "Semantics prevent lawsuits," Mark said. "You should thank them." By 9, whispers replaced instruction. The bakery called twice. The decorator hovered by the freight elevator with unpaid helpers. The DJ texted Chloe, "Wire still pending?" and added a frowning emoji. She typed fast, maybe to me, maybe to Emily. My phone pinged. "Emily, what's happening?" "Vendors stalled," I replied. "Reading comprehension test." Bank hold still active until noon. She didn't respond right away. From the mezzanine, I watched panic drift like fog across polished floors. No shouting yet, just the sharp quiet when people realize ownership has shifted. Chloe tried damage control through charm. "We'll advance small cash to cover goodwill," she told the florist. "No, you won't," Mark said, stepping closer. "Building policy forbids unverified exchanges," she hissed. "You're protecting pride, not logistics." "I'm protecting contracts," he said. Big difference. I admired his calm like an engineer admiring clean welds. Chloe stormed toward me finally, headset flickering red. "David, this is catastrophic," she said. "Everything is ready except your release." "Then everything isn't ready," I said. "Read the order again. It's conditional." "Conditional on what?" she demanded, voice sharp enough to echo. "On respect," I said. Emily appeared mid-argument, dress pinned, eyes tired but strong. "Dad, can we talk privately?" she asked. I nodded, and we stepped into a side hall lined with folding chairs. "People are scared," she said. "The planner's losing control." "I'm not punishing anyone," I said. "I'm enforcing terms. You're freezing my wedding." "No, I'm thawing accountability," I said, softer now. "Money follows manners." She rubbed her temples, then whispered, "This is the only way they'll listen, isn't it?" "Yes," I said, "and maybe the only way you'll be heard too." She nodded slowly, eyes clearing. "Okay," she said, "then let's make the call together." We walked back toward the ballroom, where vendors stood in small groups pretending not to eavesdrop. Chloe spotted us and straightened her jacket. "So?" she asked, voice flat. Emily turned toward her, shoulders squared. "My father controls the funds," she said calmly. "He also controls access when people cross lines." "Emily, this isn't personal," Chloe said. "It's optics." "Then you should have looked closer before insulting family." The planner blinked, unready for the reversal. "We'll release once the venue verifies compliance," I said. "Mark?" He raised his clipboard. "Safety and seating verified. Planner's behavior pending." Silence spread like steady water over noise. Chloe's assistant whispered, "We can adjust language," and pulled her aside. The florist, overhearing, leaned on a dolly. "Guess we're back on schedule after lunch," he said to nobody. "Maybe," Mark replied. "Depends on who apologizes first." I texted Janet one word, "Hold." She replied seconds later, "Logged, waiting for proceed." I looked at Emily, who met my eyes without flinching. "You lead now?" I said. "Words first, not wires." She approached Chloe, calm and deliberate. "You'll issue an apology," she said, "to my father and to every vendor you misled this morning. Then we'll all move forward." The apology came quietly by 11. No speeches, just a few soft sentences near the floral racks. Chloe spoke with the practiced tone of a woman calculating survival. "Mr. Carter, I overstepped yesterday," she said. "My intent was aesthetics, not exclusion." "Intent doesn't soften insult," I said, "but apology restores progress." I pulled my phone, typed one word to Janet. "Proceed." The reply came. "Funds released." Mark's radio crackled a second later. Confirmation tone. Trucks rolled, doors opened, pedals moved. The ballroom filled again with sound, the useful kind. Emily exhaled deeply, then smiled. "That's over." "No," I said. "It's corrected." She laughed softly. "You're impossible." "No," I said. "Just prepared." The music crew tested speakers. Lights found the floor again. Chloe disappeared into her own clipboard, diminished but professional. I sat in the corner of the empty second row for a minute. Revenge had been quiet, measured, not anger, just math. By noon, respect had returned to the budget line where it belonged. The hotel woke slowly, like a town careful about Saturday promises. Hallway carpets muted footsteps and worry, forcing whispers to carry between doors. I stood near the service elevators and listened to silence grow heavier. Silence is loud when money holds its breath and trucks wait outside. Mark's security posted by the bay, scanning badges with dependable boredom. Chloe paced the mezzanine, headset blinking like a stubborn check engine light. Emily texted from the suite. Hair started. Everyone asking about deliveries already. I replied, "Calm answers only. Schedule unchanged. Verification pending. Nothing dramatic." Trevor wrote, "Groomsmen are on time. Keeping them off phones per request." Janet messaged, "Hold notices delivered. I'll field vendor calls. Keep your phone quiet." At 8:30, guest elevators opened with early birds searching coffee like scavenger hunts. Aunts in shawls peeked into the ballroom, puzzled by the empty platform stages. "Rehearsal?" one asked a guard, who answered with professional non-answers and polite smile. The florist's van idled 2 spaces back, recording crew hours like a metronome. Their lead scrolled Janet's email, then studied the loading dock clock carefully. The bakery's driver balanced boxes on knees, reading texts that answered nothing clearly. The DJ carried a case, stopped, checked phone, sighed, and leaned back. Chloe circled them all with bright words that didn't pay invoices today. She called me over and tried to stitch charm into a lifeline. "Help me sell calm," she said, "while you hold the oxygen." I shook my head because borrowed calm always bounces, then breaks harder. "Calm is free," I said. "Release costs respect, which you withheld yesterday." Her eyes flashed, then softened, reading the room as a market finely. "Then give me words that work," she said quietly, headset dimmer. "Tell vendors this is procedural, not personal, and on schedule with checks." "You tell them that," I said. "Then show respect you mispriced earlier." She nodded once, then faced the florist and band with trimmed sentences. "Procedural delay," she said. "Not personal, not punitive. Thank you for patience." They held still, unsure whether patience translates into cash by lunchtime. Mark stepped closer and backed the sentence with a clipboard's authority. Across the lobby, 2 college friends filmed stories nobody would watch tomorrow. "Wedding drama at the Marquette," one said, chewing vowels like popcorn. I walked by and offered no soundtrack for their audience of strangers. Guests never understand contracts, and that isn't their job at all. My job was keeping consequences inside rooms where adults pay consequences. Emily's next text read, "Bridesmaids worried about bouquets. Tell me something useful." I answered, "Flowers are cold, not late. Cold means fresh. Fresh means fine." She replied with a single heart and a photo of pinned sleeves. Trevor wrote, "Parents ask if they should move seats for VIP partners." I answered, "Family front stays. Contracts before optics. Say it kindly." 9:30 felt like a lake holding wind it hasn't decided to show. Janet called with the day's most boring and therefore best update. "Vendors checked in, no escalation, no threats. 3 requests for clarity," she said. "I gave them your sentence and Mark's timing. They accepted quietly." "Good," I said. "Boring beats dramatic," which made her laugh once. "Boring beats dramatic and pays mortgages," she replied, her favorite line. We hung up, and I finally drank coffee that still tasted calm. Chloe walked by again, slower now, headset less theatrical and more practical. "I drafted an apology," she said. "Short, direct, and in person. No microphone." I nodded. "Emily deserves to hear it before anyone who isn't family." Guests trickled toward the terrace, reading a schedule that pretended everything was fine. Mark briefed a bellman about blocking photographers from storage hallways politely. The florist lined buckets along the rail, quiet as a library working late. The band tuned unplugged, plucking notes no one could hear completely. Baker's assistant checked tiers, shook her head, and rechecked temperatures patiently. Chloe's assistant whispered, "We can fake behind-the-scenes content later, after setup." "Fake nothing," I said. "People deserve truth when money taught it already." Emily's stylist peeked into the hall, then held up a thumb cautiously. "We're okay," she mouthed, "as long as flowers exist before portraits begin." "They will," I said, because I trusted systems more than speeches. 10:30 arrived, like a judge entering chambers without any ceremony. Vendors watched the clock together, then looked at Chloe, then looked away. She walked toward me with shoulders set and sentences cleaned for duty. "I'll apologize now," she said, then asked Mark for the safety confirmation. "Before apologies, speak to Emily," I said, pointing toward the bridal suite. "She leads the room. Everyone else follows because she is the bride." Chloe closed her eyes once, opened them, and nodded with conviction. "You're right," she said, and headed upstairs without her headset flashing. Mark approached, as if measuring a beam after the load finally shifted. "You can feel it turning," he said. "Gravity prefers honesty," I answered, smiling thinly. The lobby fell quiet, in the way lobbies dream about weekdays. Trucks idled softer, carts stopped rattling, radios reduced their constant hiss. That silence wasn't panic anymore. It was discipline finding footholds politely. Trevor joined me by the mezzanine rail and watched the ballroom doors. "Thank you," he said, choosing small words with large sincerity behind them. "This morning hurt, but the house will remember better because of it." "Houses remember tone," I said, "long after flowers and playlists change." He nodded, then pulled his phone and drafted 2 lines respectfully. "Text to groomsmen," he said. "No jokes about funding, no jokes about photos." I read, nodded, and felt the day shift from performance to practice. 11 was. A clock crept up quietly, then stood in the center of everything. The elevator chimed. Emily stepped out, holding her bouquet test confidently. Chloe followed, headset tucked away, tablet closed like a contrite book. "Dad," Emily said softly, "we're ready to fix this the right way." "Then fix it," I said, with words that survived microphones and invoices. She smiled, squeezed my hand, and guided Chloe toward the florist's racks. The planner faced the crew, then me, then Emily, then began carefully. Morning ended with sentences, not music, and that was exactly right. The next hour would decide whether the ballroom learned respect before applause. I waited for apology, knowing the bank could hear every word nearby. The ballroom waited like a held breath, chairs lined and untested under light. Petals sat in buckets, not vases, while place cards faced the ceiling. The band tuned without amps, strings whispering notes meant for larger rooms. Chloe stood near the riser, headset tucked into a pocket finely. Emily rested a hand on the railing, bouquet test steady and bright. Mark checked exits and drape, then scanned the floor like a patient surveyor. Guests drifted by, saw the silence, and retreated to the terrace carefully. A flower girl practiced walking, shoes squeaking, unaware the room still lacked permission. I stood second row center, the chair that doesn't negotiate for position. Chloe cleared her throat and faced the florist crew first, voice shaped smaller. "I'm sorry for the uncertainty," she said. I pushed optics over process. The crew lead nodded once and began lifting stems without commentary. She turned to the DJ, who wore a patient expression professionals cultivate. "You'll have balance in minutes," she promised quietly, choosing clarity over charm. He tapped his watch lightly and said, "We start when venue clears." She nodded again, then angled toward me and Emily without rehearsed lines. "Mr. Carter, I disrespected you yesterday," she said, measured, not theatrical. "Today, I will follow the rules you and Mark set." Emily stepped forward and kept it as exact as the apology needed. "Thank you," she said. "This wedding centers family, not content." Chloe swallowed, then added, "I'll inform vendors in the hallway and return." She turned and walked with purpose that finally looked like work. Mark joined us and kept his voice low and even like machinery. "Safety reconfirmed, seating correct, load-in controlled," he said. "We can start once tables finish and DJ passes decibel check." "Timing?" I asked. 30 minutes, he answered, as the florist lifted the first centerpiece. Emily exhaled, then smiled at Trevor, who held the door for moving carts. Guests began to seat themselves, the way rivers find old paths naturally. Ushers handed programs with calm that makes rooms trust schedules again. An aunt whispered, "Why no music?" And I said, "Sound, check after safety." She nodded, because people accept simple sentences that feel like law. Chloe returned with a smaller headset, volume turned down, posture reset. "Vendors briefed," she said. "We'll stage portraits near the windows while we wait." Emily looked at me for permission she didn't need anymore. "Do it," I said, "and keep the aisle clear for crew movement." Mark radioed security and cleared the back corridor like a runway. The band leader approached, cable in hand, respect in every step taken. "We're ready to test the room," he said. "Once you approve." Mark checked the meter, tapped the laminated sheet, and nodded once. "Test at half volume, 90 seconds, then cut," he instructed calmly. The first chord rolled like warm air across wood and linen. People straightened, relief turning into small conversation at reserved tables. Chloe stood still, listening the way chefs listen to simmering pots. She said nothing, and I appreciated silence choosing its lane. When the test ended, the room felt measured, not fragile, and ready. Near the back, a couple of Trevor's colleagues debated the morning like commentary. "Could have been smoother if checks went early," one said, crossing arms. The other shrugged. "Or maybe smoother because respect finally had a price." I walked by and didn't correct either, because argument steals oxygen quickly. Emily rejoined me, bouquet now real, stems wrapped and ribboned cleanly. "House looks like a house," she said, scanning florals that found homes. "Houses remember tone," I said, smiling at a sentence practiced by time. "Then let's teach tone at the aisle," she answered, calmer than earlier. We took our places without needing an audience for the choice. Chloe approached once more, the headset only a quiet tool now. "Photo lineup same as rehearsal with one change," she said, meeting my eyes. "Parents enter with the couple, front tables stay front." "Good," I answered. "And announcements stay short." She nodded and turned to the DJ, raising one hand like a conductor. "House lights to ceremony level," she said, voice steady and professional finally. "Open the doors. Guests may take their seats." The DJ lifted his mic, but waited for Mark's pointed thumb. Mark checked aisles, then lifted his hand like a gate opening properly. The first instrumental swelled at half volume, like dignity tested, then approved. Trevor squeezed my shoulder and whispered, "Thank you for standing ground." "Ground stands itself when rules stay readable," I said, keeping eyes forward. He laughed softly, relief breaking into something friendlier than survival. Emily took my arm, and we waited for the cue without anxiety. The planner who once cut me from frames now held the door open. She said, "Ready when you are," and it sounded like respect learned. We stepped forward, slow and level, as the band eased into the melody. The ballroom that had waited without music now heard the right song finally. We didn't rush. Good rooms don't need rushing when people behave. Mark signaled again, and the doors closed softly behind our last step. The DJ's voice returned with a sentence the room needed and deserved. "Welcome," he said, "to a celebration built on respect and promise." Applause moved through chairs like steady wind across a field. I took my seat at the front table, exactly where it belonged. The band lifted volume to ceremony level, perfect and controlled. Chloe disappeared into productive work that didn't compete with family anymore. Emily's smile wasn't decoration. It was relief, wearing flowers like tools. The ballroom finally sounded like a place that would remember how we chose. The reception started under new weather, light, calm, and earned. The band found rhythm like engines warming after maintenance, steady and real. Laughter returned, smaller but honest. People spoke about meals instead of gossip. Mark moved through the crowd like quiet infrastructure, adjusting nothing that worked. Chloe kept near the DJ booth, clipboard open, headset unplugged, symbolic penance. Emily and Trevor floated from table to table, relief replacing tension line by line. I sat beside the dance floor and watched lights move on rented linen. Nothing extravagant survived, except balance. Sound below limit, crowd above apology. That's the best ratio any engineer or father could ask for. After dinner, Trevor's father tapped a glass to start his toast. "To patience," he said, glancing at me briefly, "and to the people who keep roofs steady." Guests clapped politely, not sure if they understood the deeper math of that line. Emily leaned close and whispered, "You see? They notice balance now." "They notice absence first," I said, "then learn to value structure." She smiled, knowing her education came early but fair. Chloe approached later, eyes tired but sincere. "Mr. Carter, I've reset all disbursements," she said. "Vendors paid, confirmations logged, final reports by Monday." "Good," I said. "You'll sleep better with order on your side." By 9, the playlist softened, and couples moved toward hallways or balconies. I watched Mark tape a note near the service door. "Event complete, verified safe." He waved before leaving, still managing exits until they closed right. Emily called over. "Dad, one photo? Just us, no planner, no staging." I nodded and stood, no nerves left for cameras anymore. The photographer smiled, quick, and framed the shot against candlelight. "Perfect," he said. No one told me to step aside, and no one needed to. Respect had reset itself without announcement or speech. Afterward, I walked to the courtyard, where the night smelled like flowers that hadn't wilted. Chloe joined briefly, staying on the perimeter, voice careful. "You were right," she said. "Respect isn't decoration, it's policy. Policy keeps people safe enough to celebrate," I said. She nodded, almost grateful, then returned to wrap cables. Emily followed, heels in hand, laughter softer now, more her own. "You know," she said, "this is better than perfect pictures." "Pictures fade," I said. "Process stays." Trevor joined, jacket off, sleeves rolled. "We owe you," he said. "No," I said. "You owe each other, just paying kindness." Outside the hotel, streetlights hummed like satisfied witnesses. I called Janet to close the file, and she answered, even at this hour. "Event finalized?" she asked. "Completed," I said. "No damages, no disputes, full compliance. I'll archive the trust event and flag it as clean," she said. "Good record." I thanked her for precision disguised as care. She laughed. "Precision is care," she said, and hung up. I watched vendors load trucks, quiet professionalism restored to routine. Revenge had never needed volume, only timing and documentation. I stopped at the door of my car and looked back at the windows. Emily and Trevor stood near the glass, small against chandeliers but steady. They looked like people who had learned the cost of calm too early and just enough. I drove home without music, only turn signals and the hum of finished work. The house waited like it always did, quiet, clean, forgiving. I set the folder on my desk, checked one last line in the ledger. Event closed, full integrity. Then I looked at my wife's photo, the same one I talked to before every hard day. "She learned, love," I said softly. "You'd like her choices now." Outside, the streetlights dimmed for morning, signaling rest for planners and banks alike. Some stories end in applause, better ones end in systems restored. If this story reminded you that calm choices can speak louder than anger, give it a like and share your thoughts in the comments. And if you value real stories about dignity, respect, and quiet strength, subscribe for the next one.